Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Agritourism session of the International Conference on Responsible Tourism and Hospitality 2022. My name is Mia Fresnido, Associate Professor of the Department of Tourism of the Central Bicol State University of Agriculture in the Philippines, and I am one of the co-chairs of this session. Agritourism has been steadily picking up as a subsector of alternative tourism. Agritourism, as the term implies, is tourism taking place on the farm. It is highly educational and experiential as farm visitors enjoy offerings such as pick and pay, farm-to-fork cuisine, farm cooking, arts and crafts, to mention a few. Corollary to this, tourism research has been picking up as well as more and more academics and tourism practitioners seek to know more about this particular tourism subsector. In the next hour, we will listen to three speakers who have been contributing to the growing agritourism body of knowledge. And to introduce the first speaker, let us welcome Dr. Eva Rachmawati, my co-chair for this session.
He's an agribusiness economic and management professor in the Department of Agricultural Economics at Kansas State University. He teaches both graduate and undergraduate courses. He received his PhD from the University of Guelph in Ontario, Canada. Oh, it's quite far away from Indonesia. He worked as a director of research at the George Morris Center, Canada. He has a lot of experience in agritourism. He was managing the director of Agri-Food Innovation, an agri-food technology commercialization. It's the company he co-founded. And he also served on an editorial advisory board of the International Journal of Chain and Network Science. He has a lot of experience in agri-tourism. So for now, please, for Mr. Vincent, the Zoom is yours.
All right. Well, thank you very much for the invitation. And I'm going to try and see if I can share some thoughts on the conference theme, as well as the theme for this session. I'm honored to be among you and be part of this conversation. I will immediately get into my presentation so that we will have time for more conversation. What I want to talk about is try and talk about the inclusivity and economic prosperity in agritourism, and spend time actually looking at how individuals scope for opportunities and exploit those opportunities. Okay. So my roadmap for this conversation will, first of all, give a very quick overview of my understanding of inclusivity, and then move into how entrepreneurs are motivated into particular agritourism ventures, explore those ventures and how they might be scoped and the potential policy implications. In terms of thinking about inclusivity, we might think about it as consciously including people who might otherwise be excluded from particular activities or initiatives. As Werner Meyer said, inclusivity is being invited to the party and being asked for a dance, because it's very easy for people to be brought into particular activities, but then nobody actually embraces them and engages them to participate. So there is a second part beyond being invited to a particular initiative. I will share my view on inclusivity as an economic opportunities emerge. There should be no artificial barriers for anyone in any environment, in any economic activity. Let's put legitimate as a component of that. In a free and civilized society, everybody should be able to do whatever they need to do at any time. Now, as soon as we start thinking like this, then there is the potential for policy incentives and other interventions to try and bring people who might have, who might need to be in a particular venture, but don't have the economic resources and wherewithal to do that. This is where my personal economics come in, where my thinking is that people should be allowed then to participate freely without any barriers, but they should also be allowed to fail or succeed in any enterprise. As Eric Fromm said, there can be no real freedom without the freedom to fail. And this sort of cautions policymakers in how they think about supporting the policy of inclusivity in a very radical and also turbulent activity like tourism, given the recent pandemic and how that shuttered the economy and the potential for something like that to happen again. I'll give you a very quick overview of what we've seen in the performance of the agritourism industry in the U.S. The new numbers for U.S. Census of Agriculture comes out in 2022, so we don't have those data yet. But from 2017, because the census is taken every 5 years, about 30,000 farmers are involved in agritourism. And then about 130,000 of them are involved in what we call the direct-to-consumer sales, so farm sales, roadside sales, and stuff like that. They generated together about agritourism component about $949 million, and the direct-to-consumer sales about $2.8 billion. The total tourism industry is about $1.1 trillion in the United States. So let's pause a minute and think about what motivates people to get into agritourism, to take resources that they could put into something else and put it into agritourism. I identify two major motivations: economic and social. A lot of the work that I've done with farmers who are getting into agritourism, the primary driver is income. They want to improve their income. They have some resources that they could use that are not being used in their primary production activities, and so then they divert that into secondary activities like agritourism. Others express the need to expand their network of contacts. So people come into the farm and engaging them in conversation. They get to meet people from different places. They learn about other things. So it becomes their own way of engaging with the world. And in that social stream too, you have people who get into agritourism because they want to support their local community. They recognize the economic challenges that face them, and they want to spend time and resources to provide economic stream that could then support others in their community. So there is the economic drivers, the social drivers, and probably the benevolent drivers that happen. The field of agritourism, the number of activities, the diversity of activities that might be undertaken are significant. I've organized this into two broad groups. First, I'm looking at it as on-farm businesses. Farmers can generate income or extra income by working off the farm or investing in other businesses that are non-farm related, but we are limiting our activities to on-farm businesses. And when we look at on-farm businesses, we can break it down into mainly two groups. You have agritourism and value addition. So under agritourism, I categorize agritourism ventures into educational ventures, recreational ventures, events, and accommodation. And then under value addition, I will include food processing, food service, and the farm store. Now, these are not mutually exclusive because you might do an education activity with food processing. There is one of my former students who runs an agritourism venture in Grenada, has a cocoa processing activity on the farm. They harvest their own cocoa, they process it into chocolate and other cocoa products, and that is part of the tourism activity. They teach people about the growing of cocoa and the processing of it all through to the making of the chocolate, and then they sell chocolate on the farm. So you see education activity that is going to food processing and then a farm store, right? So the options that we present here are purely to give us an idea about the breadth of activities that can be undertaken, but none of these activities are necessarily mutually exclusive. People often will work on them in various ways. Okay, so let's look at the scoping then. Location is the primary constrained resource facing anybody getting into agritourism. It will define what opportunities are economically feasible. If, for example, you are very remote from an urban area, there are certain activities that are not conducive for you. And as a result, some of the things that we saw earlier might not be available to you if you are remote from an urban area. There is then the opportunity then to leverage the different activities to enhance the traffic flow. If that is the case, then diversity in offerings is more attractive than more of the same. And one of the things that we can think about is what we saw in the Finger Lakes region of New York in the United States, where you had Niagara Falls, a very popular tourist attraction. And people would come in. Niagara Falls get about 1 million visitors in the summer months alone, but they spend less than an hour there. They come, they look at the falls, they leave. The Finger Lakes region got together with various agritourism initiatives and bundled those tourism activities with Niagara Falls, kept people there a little longer, they spent a little more money, and that created an opportunity. We might also think about such places as Champagne or Burgundy in France, where a local activity brings people together to do more things instead of just coming to a single activity, because that becomes more expensive even if they are coming in for free. In Niagara Falls, Ontario, what we saw there was the Falls Tourism Initiative, the community theater festival, and the wineries of the Niagara Peninsula in southwestern Ontario leverage each other to generate significant traffic and therefore increase the economic benefit. So the important thing is this: regardless of whatever the farmer is doing, the primary business still remains agriculture. It might be crop, it might be livestock, but it is agriculture. And so the first thing in scoping for opportunities is to determine what slack resources are available for new ventures. For example, if you are going to get into the accommodation venture, what we find is driven by emptiness. When children leave home, rooms become available, then people might think we can do something with the rooms, and they get into accommodation, invite people to the farm for farm stay, or if they have large land holdings, they might even do camping. They might host weddings and other events on the farm if they have the beauty of a landscape or the proximity to traffic that might come in. Okay. It also based on the farmer's capabilities. So if the farmer has interest in hunting and fishing, then there's a great probability that they might undertake this because they can provide guidance to the guests who come in, and also an ability to stock game and fish on the property. These usually don't have to be close. As a matter of fact, they don't have to be close to urban areas. But if you are going to put a corn maze that is going to bring school children on weekends, then it becomes very difficult if you are remote. It has to be something that is close to urban areas so that people can patronize this event. Horseback riding and others are also very location dependent. And of course, one of the biggest areas that we are seeing agritourism is wine tasting. But again, this is important, that it's leverage. You cannot have a winery alone by itself and be very successful as an agritourism activity. In the Napa Valley of California, you have about 500 wineries in the valley alone with tasting rooms, each with a different story, but together they create a traffic that each of them benefits from. So let me quickly, given the time constraint, let me quickly get us to think about some of the questions that potential agritourism entrepreneurs might be thinking about. How much resources we're going to seize in each of the opportunities? How big is the potential market for each of the opportunities? How much rewards, in other words, payback, can I get from flowback from each opportunity, and then quickly, how quickly am I going to get my payback to get into the market? How long will it take before rewards start flowing, and how fast will the rewards flow back to me? And then finally, how long will the rewards flow before they begin to slow down? Okay, so now let us look at some of the tools that potential investors or entrepreneurs in agritourism should be looking at. The bottom line is profit. You know, it doesn't matter whether we are measuring it in cash or we are measuring it in bragging rights or in number of people showing up. In the end, resources invested might pay a return on investment that is better than anywhere else those resources could be put through. This, for me, is what stewardship is about. So each of the opportunities that is scored must be checked against their potential feasibility and economic value, as well as the opportunity cost. In very simple terms, the net present value should be greater than 0, and the discount rate that is used in calculating the net present value should be higher than the hurdle rate for the organization. From a policy perspective, then, we must be careful because all interventions that come as incentives distort decisions that people make. So a government might decide that we want to promote agritourism in a particular area, and as a result, start giving incentives in the form of all forms, subsidies, money, capital, all that. And that might change the economics of the venture. Farmers must ensure that the choices they are making are economically feasible in the absence of these incentives, because those incentives can go away at any time. And if they do, you might find yourself with a very high capital cost without the returns that you need to support that capital cost. However, infrastructure also is fundamental for tourism businesses. If roads come into the place are bad, if electricity and access of water and other amenities of the modern world are not available, visitors are not very eager to come. So these must then be, if policy wants to participate, these must be where they should be spending resources. And the reason is simple. So putting electricity into a particular area reduces the adjustment that they have to make. But beyond that, it serves everybody, becomes progress for the whole environment. Tourism benefits from diversity and large numbers, as we said. Pulling people together, having different stories, always create that opportunity. Therefore, policymakers can facilitate the development of strategic alliances in regions and promoting marketing and promoting the area, marketing the area, so that all the people who are involved in the tourism activities in those areas will be beneficial. So let me end by saying, for anybody considering getting into agritourism, the most important thing is this, and I'm quoting from Charles de Boer, to be willing at any moment to sacrifice what we believe ourselves to be for what we could become. There's this poster that sits in the study of my oldest daughter. It says, "What if I fail?" And the response was, "Oh, my darling, but what if you fly?" Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Amanur Baudu. That was a very interesting talk. Thank you for giving us the opportunities that we can get from agritourism.
Let me invite the second speaker. He is from India. His name is Mr. Pandurang Bhagwanrao Taware. I'm sorry if I pronounce it wrongly.
You have
he is the fourth generation farmer and first generation entrepreneur. It's very awesome, Mr. He is from the small village from Sanghavi in Baramati Taluka. Is it right, Mr. Pandurang?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, very much.
Yeah, he is born and brought up by family of 50 members. It's interesting. Maybe we can talk about it later. I'm not sure what's mean of these 50 members. His childhood was immersive in farms. He's playing with domestic animals, taking them to graze, washing buffalo, for his interesting experience. In 2003, he married agriculture with tourism and launched Agritourism Development Corporation with a model of agritourism center in Baramati. After running the agritourism operation successfully for 3 years, he took on training and skill development in agritourism for other farmers in Maharashtra. And he has replicated this idea on 628 farms. Oh, it's very cool. So, Mr. Pandurang, please share your presentation and give us some awareness about the agritourism in yours.
Thank you so much, Dr. Yuva Rachmawati, and my respected co-panelist, Dr. Vincent, and the person who has taken a lot of efforts to organize this session is Ma'am Mia on this international conference on responsible tourism and hospitality. I think this has been organized by SRS and Ministry of Tourism, Malaysia. Thank you so much, organizing team, for inviting me here and allowing me to give the perspective through Indian farmers and how we are actually doing agritourism in India. Let me share with you what we are doing here in India. Okay, so namaste once again from all of us here in Agritourism India. I will present you the story of how agritourism in India is helping farmers, and for that matter, it's a win-win situation for the urban citizens as well as the farmers. I will not take much of the time. I will try and finish up in whatever time you have given me. Okay, nothing great happens without the blessings of mother and father. So she is my mother and he is my father. Father left to the heaven board last year on 1st of September 2020. And his dream and his vision was me to be learning or studying in agriculture, but I didn't have that much of marks in 10th and 12th standard. So I happened to be the farmer and working in the farm. And he always, was wanting me to do something for the betterment of the farming communities in India, because in India, the slogan given by the second president in 1952 was Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan. So always, because as you all know, the India is the agriculturalist country, and let us look at the two segments. One is tourism and one is agriculture. So if you see these figures in 2019, almost 18 crores domestic tourists have taken one holidays in India. I will not say much of the figures. India's share in tourist arrival is 1.17%. And if you look at the other side of the story, that is farmer and agriculture, average land holding in 1970 was 2.2 hectares. That time there were 7 crore farmers. Today we have almost 15 crores farmers and the land average holding is 1 hectare. So the land is actually fragmented and it is becoming smaller and smaller. And on the other side, the farm holdings or the farmers are increasing. So here is the story I am unfolding in front of you. Everybody knows what is agritourism. It helps to promote agri-produce and generate additional income on the farm. Whatever pictures I'm showing you, these pictures are from our farm. When the tourist comes here, we allow them to wear the traditional clothes, traditional culture, so that our main objective is to conserve the culture, environment for the sustainability, and hence the rural tourism activities we are doing. So it also helps you to sell farm produce, farm stays, souvenir sales, recreation, participation, education. Dr. Vincent was giving all this Thanks to you. Now, what is the demand in India? For you, all the international audiences, 43% of the people staying in urban India, they don't have relatives left in the villages. So if they want to go and see the farm, if they want to go and meet the farmer, if they want to go and see how the farm, how the food is being produced, they have to take the route of agritourism and visit the farmers. In addition, it helps to turn the agritourism into farms. This is the current status in our Maharashtra, one of the Indian states in India. These are some of the successful stories in Maharashtra, agritourism across the world. All the international audiences, you know, this is happening all over the world. In US, Dr. Vincent has given you the pictures. The USA Department of Agriculture in USA has 160,000 farms and almost 180% from 2002. If you take about the Italy, which is the motherland of agritourism, it has 27,000 farms. We have Singapore, Malaysia, and Switzerland. These are some of the stories. These are the Bollywood villages in Singapore. These are the Singapore giraffe farms. These are some of the examples in Singapore. And when we visited in 2017 in Philippines, these are the three farms, that is Sirao Gardens, Sadlavan Farms, and Garin Farms. All these farms we have visited in Philippines. This is the Thailand example, Minimura Farm. These are all Italy farms. Now I'm coming to our story. I'm coming to our story of our own farm, that is interrelated guiding principles towards local environment, conserving the local environment, enhancing the local economic situation and social responsibility, which is today's theme of mobilizing responsible tourism into actions towards economic prosperity, socio-cultural incentives, inclusivity, and environmental sustainability. And now on these basic principles, we work on our farm. This is my farm of 22 acres. Nobody thought that agritourism will happen here. The first thing first, what we have done is we have harvested the rainwater and our farm, and the main occupation of the farm is rearing the sheep. So from no angle, whichever angle, we never thought that agritourism will happen here. The first thing first, what we did was we harvested the rainwater. Whatever rain we get, hardly 235 millimeter of rainfall, which is very, very less. This is the rain-fed area, rain shadow area, and whatever we got the water on this rain harvested water, we do the farming. We have planted all indigenous trees, species trees, so that the environment conservation will happen through our responsible tourism activities. This is like helping the local person. These are the local artisans who have actually built the agritourism, the complex for the tourist. These are all local people. So even WTO says that if you want to be a responsible tourism activity, you have to source your things within the radius of 25 kilometers. We have sourced from 5 to 6 kilometers. Even artisans, even local material, local people, everything has been sourced locally. This is the compound wall with the stone which we got it from the farm pond. So this wall is without cement, without sand, and nothing, because it is helping also the local creatures to be there, enhancing the local environment here. These are the local artisans. They make this local homemade or arts crafts, and that we tourists buy. This is the handmade, hand woven blankets which is being sold to the tourist. These are the local farmers. Whenever the tourist comes here, we sell the fresh agricultural produce so that the local environment or local farmers get their economic benefit. These are the local youths. So they are not even 10th or 12th standard pass, but they are all managing the entire activity of the agritourism farm, so that the local economic benefit is being given to the local youths. This is the making positive contributions to the conservation of cultural heritage. So we are maintaining, we are enhancing the local socio-cultural activities. These are local artisans, these are arts, crafts, they are presenting it to the tourist. So whenever tourist comes, we have the sit down dinner or sit down meals at our farm. This is the connection, because when you want to be a responsible tourism activity, it is not only that you conserve the local environment, you conserve the local culture, but it also has to have a meaningful connection with the host and the local people. This is the, we issue a license to drive bullock cart anywhere in the world. Whenever the tourist comes here, they drive the bullock cart and we issue the license. Every tourist, whether it's from Japan, whether it is from Australia, whenever they come, they want to have that license. This is the story. Whenever the tourist comes, actual authentic experience of the farm is being given to the tourist. She is actually washing the cows there. This is the local attire people want to wear, tourists want to wear, and take the selfies, take the photos, and upload it onto social media. This is he is the father giving an authentic experience of the farm work of plowing the field in the farm itself. This is the irrigating the crops. Tourist comes there, they irrigate the farms. What I want to present here is that no experience here is stage managed. Nothing is stage managed. We are giving authentic experience to the tourist when they come here. This is the meaningful connection with the local person and the tourist. See, he's from London, he is from our village. People visit the weekly bazaars there and want to do this story. I mean, this is the story having an authentic experience. With going to today's
Excuse
theme.
me, sir, you have 2 more minutes.
Okay, so connecting, because today's theme is mobilizing responsible tourism into actions towards economic prosperity, social culture inclusivity, and environmental sustainability. I think what best example than our farm at Baramati Agritourism, which we are actually promoting for the responsible tourism activities. These are the great moments we had. This is from tourists. We earn it. I mean, also in London, we have meeting Fiona Jeffrey in responsible tourism at WTM. We are also a winner of World Responsible Tourism Award at WTM London. This was the Philippines in 2017, having farm tourism conference. We are also the recipient of Lag Bay Bukid Award for farm tourism activities. This was Italy in World Agritourism Conference. And this is the great moments. I mean, all these awards and recognitions you can see. I will just not take more than 30 seconds now. These are all responsible tourism activities with the National Award from Government of India. These are Sustainable Tourism Awards. I mean, I'll just take it to the last slide now. Innovative Farmer Award from Government of India. And we have World Agritourism Day on 16th May, which has been celebrated and recognized by UNWTO. These are the things. Agritourism policy has been there in India. I mean, Dr. Vincent was talking about road, electricity. We have done this, and opportunities are this. And get in touch with us. These are all social media activities and handles. And this is our training center address. So, audience, from bottom of my heart, I thank you from India, and with all warm regards from our farmers in India. And I thank once again organizers of this conference for giving me this opportunity to present a case study of Agritourism India and how responsible tourism activities we are doing on our farm, which is benefiting not only the farmers, but also the urban citizens. By doing agritourism, we want to keep farm in the family, and family in the farm. Jai Hind, Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Pandurang. Thank you for sharing the agritourism experience of India to us and to the participants of this session. I'll turn you over to Dr. Ava.
Okay, our third speaker is Dr. Kazam Fafadari. He is an associate, he is a professor of Tourism and Hospitality at Graduate School of Asia Pacific Studies with Sumeikan Asia Pacific University, Beppu, Japan. He is devoted to tourism policy and planning and community-based tourism. He also devoted to tourism development in Japanese rural traditional landscape of Satoyama and Satomi. He is an expert on agricultural heritage landscape and rural development and served at the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization. He has published several chapters and papers on tourism application of globally important agricultural heritage system and on planning for sustainable tourism development. Dr. Kazam, could you please share your presentation? And the Zoom is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm so happy to be with you tonight in this important topic of tourism and agriculture. And what I'm going to present here is globally important agricultural heritage system landscapes and the tourism applications of it. I'll take you to a brief background how tourism incorporate to GS or agricultural heritage, and a little bit of the case studies from Asia on GS and tourism. So back to agritourism, as we know, we have a sizable market of people who want to be familiar with agriculture and farming. And farming livelihood can be diversified with agriculture. So normally people want to stay in the farms, spend time with farmers, and they want to stay a holiday in rural. Of course, we have urban agriculture as well, but when we talk about agriculture, tourism, probably the main attention is in rural. And how to help farmers to benefit from tourism is the task that we are going to discuss about in this presentation. We have several services that can be provided in agricultural livelihood and agricultural landscape, like accommodation, food, recreation, relaxation, sports, that can be somehow incorporated to daily life of farmers. And tourism also can benefit and also can get benefit from all of these activities. And as you see, the last part of here is agri-therapy or agri and health and recreation in agricultural landscape. Due to the nature of this landscape, they can offer health and wellness services and payment for environmental services as well. In economic wise, we have facilities in agriculture, livelihood that can be extended to tourism, like the accommodation, extra rooms. We have the opportunities to create employment, especially for low season period in agriculture, and additional source of income, as well as promoting socioeconomic development for possibility of social and economic advancement in agricultural livelihood and landscape. Environmental benefit also exists. Nature protection, friendly environment that can bring a host and the guest. Think about environmental management. The local infrastructure can get improved through tourism development, and We have also possibility to create benefit for our aesthetic values, and tourism can bring more attention to these values and reconsideration of the values that can be utilized for tourism, give more proud to people who are living in the agricultural landscape. And it can also help with mass out migration from rural to urban. Here I want to mention that for the first time in 2010, the world population in rural and urban became equal. And from 2010 onward, we have more population in urban areas. And this is a big threat for future food production and sustainability of agriculture itself. Here we have a kind of conceptual background that bring agritourism in reality to utilize rural landscape for tourism. And it can be considered as ecotourism, alternative tourism, and more sustainable way of tourism. In Japan, we have a concept of Sato-yama. Sato is mountain and yama, Sato is community and yama is mountain. As you know, the rural landscape of Japan is probably about 70% in upland mountainous areas. And of course, we have coastal shores in Japan, but mainly Japanese culture and society was formed in these upland areas that is called Sato-yama. Sato-umi is the same concept with beach, and umi means sea or ocean, the communities by the ocean. This rural landscape of Japan has been in severe sustainability issues due to the lack of population and aging society. Sato-yama is a Japanese term for a mosaic of different ecosystem types: secondary forest, farmland, irrigation ponds, and grasslands, along with the human settlements, which has been managed to produce bundle of ecosystem services for human well-being. This is Japan's Sato-yama Satomi assessment version of Sato-yama that is defined. And we are going to see how tourism is going to incorporate in environmental management of Sato-yama and Satomi. Here are the perspectives of Sato-yama initiative, which is in collaboration with Ministry of Agriculture and Environment of Japan and United Nations University, where I have been working and collaborating with. So we have a few perspectives. The first one is resource use within the carrying capacity and resiliency of the environment. The second one is cycle use of natural resources. The third one is recognition of the value and importance of local traditions and culture, multi-stakeholder participation and collaboration, and contribution to local socioeconomics. As you can see here, we don't have a specific tourism word here, but as you can see, it can be exactly incorporated with tourism and sustainable tourism in agricultural landscape. I don't go to the definition of sustainable tourism, but as you can see by different international organizations, when we talk about sustainable tourism and especially sustainable rural tourism, we have a pillar, three main pillars or triangle of economic, socio-cultural, and environment. And the balance between the need of tourists with those who are living in the site and residents is very important. The photos that I put here, it takes you to a tour from the sites that I was working with local communities in Japan. Here is the first Japanese agricultural heritage site in Noto Peninsula in Japan. And you can see that in one abandoned school, people gathered together. I was working with them for making workshop activities on rural tourism development. The second definition, as you can see here by UNEP, also emphasizes on environment, socioeconomic, and long-term benefit for communities. And again, the photos of the same peninsula, Noto Peninsula, that shows how in local airport also they are using the elements of culture. I want to move on. As you can see, again, we have these definitions and the example of Japanese rural tourism, how young people can learn traditional knowledge and the traditions directly from the societies who are, or senior people who are living in Satoyama. The conceptual background of my research is agri-heritage research in a development concept. We have sustainability, we have tourism and rural development, and where all these three meet are sustainable rural livelihood for tourism. And what I want to emphasize is that rural tourism is beyond tourism itself, is just to sustain the livelihood of people in the place. We are not going to replace tourism with their main livelihood. And the sustainable livelihood approach, which is a famous methodology, exists. I would like to re-emphasize the practical and the usefulness of this methodology for researching on the livelihood capitals that are in any agriculture site or on landscape. So we have human capital, natural capital, social capital, and economic capital, but the way that we can utilize this HMS and E as a tourist attraction is very important. And how to connect these resources with the market that can be utilized in tourism, which is called institutional capital. If we can manage this items for a sustainable tourism, we can make sure that we have sustainable agri-tourism. The rest of my presentation goes with the activities that I did with Japanese people in monitoring the sustainability and green tourism, the capitals of mentioned above, like the natural capital, as you can see, and social capital, or the lifestyle, the human capital, which is a big problem in
Dr.
Japan.
Kizem, you have, I'm sorry to interrupt, you have 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
You have 2 more
great.
minutes.
I'll finish it in 2 minutes. And then we come up with local innovations like changing the abandoned school into tourism facilities, making the rural cultural revitalization with the students who come from urban area. This is a school in a village that is utilized for tourism. And these are not the students of this school, but they are tourists. A lot of activities can be done in rural landscape that bring people more into tourism activity and the diversification of livelihood. So my not final but very important message of this presentation is that how important is partnership and bringing the voice of people into policy and planning, and bringing the spatial resources in the site. This grass, for example, you see here is endemic to this small island, and there are only 5 families in Japan that they know how to process and grow this grass. And this has created a great tourism attraction. But before designation as agri-heritage, these families were very marginalized and without attention. I would like to stop here. I have a very long presentation that if I have other opportunities, I would like to share the rest of information. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Kizem, for telling us how we can incorporate a globally important agricultural heritage systems to tourism. And now I will give the floor to Dr. Ava for the conclusion.
Okay, thank you, Mia. Thank you for all the speaker that already have give us a very insightful for the development of agritourism in Canada and then in India and the last but not least in Japan. I hope all the knowledge and the awareness and the experience given by the speaker could give us the opportunity to develop the agritourism more successful and sustainable.
Okay. Okay, so thank you very much for joining, to the participants for joining this session. We'd like to give you some announcements that you might find interesting. The session recording will be made available at responsibleborneo.com/ICRTH 2022 program. For those who are asking about the e-certificates, they will be issued to the delegates who complete a post-conference survey, the link of which will be found at responsibleborneo.com/ICRTH 2022. Please accomplish the form as soon as possible because the survey will be closed after 1 week. And for more information about ICRTH 2022 and other conference sessions, please visit responsibleborneo.com/ICRTH 2022 program. And you have any inquiries about ICRTH 2022, don't hesitate to contact us via ICRTH2022@responsibleborneo.com. So thank you for participating and we hope to see you in other sessions.